Good readers notice those ideas, those events, those things that keep showing up again and again in literature. In Macbeth, in Act 1 and 2, we've got a few things showing up again and again. Passion and ambition, gender roles, unnatural events, unnatural ideas, the paradoxes, and suspense keep showing up again and again. Just a few words about each of those subjects. Passion and ambition, we could even say temptation, those witches' prophecies, they turn into a form of temptation for Macbeth. They take control, passion and ambition, temptation, they can take control of one's actions, especially in the absence of thought. If a character stops thinking logically and clearly, passion and ambition can overtake a person. Macbeth is very logical in Act 1. He talks about good reasons why he should not kill the king. It's wrong to kill. There's consequences. He's a good king. In Act 2, Macbeth ceases thinking and he just acts. Let's continue to watch how this affects him. It's like that idea of you cross the line once, and after you cross it that first time, crossing it after is so much easier. Let's think about this in terms of our life. It's hard to cross that line into doing something that you know you don't want to do or might not be right. Crossing that line the first time is the hardest. So, for example, let's say you are the number one in your class, you're valedictorian, and you want to hold on to that, but you are in a really hard math class. What do you do to maintain that number one spot while in the math class? Do you cheat on that test? Maybe the first time it's really hard. But then after you've cheated the first time, the second time, the third time, it's not so hard anymore. You've done it before, not a big deal. How easy it becomes to cross the line again after you've initially crossed it. Macbeth crosses the line. And now, how is that going to change him? He murdered. How is that going to change him? Is it going to be easy for him to keep crossing it? It's like once you tell that first lie, the second lie is easier. If you take that first puff, the second, the third puff is easier. Sleep with that first hookup. It changes you. Think carefully. Why does one commit evil, even when one knows what they're doing is evil? And this relates to passion and ambition too. What have been the motivators spurring Macbeth to his action? What motivated him to murder? Ambition, motivation, temptation. Usually in our world, ambition is applauded. Even ambition that harms oneself or others is often applauded. Corrupt politicians, backward business dealings. Murder is extreme, but if we take Macbeth's actions down a notch, can we see ourselves in him? Doing what we need to do because we're motivated to make something happen. What are we willing to do to make what we want to happen? Are we capable of hurting other people? Are we capable of murder to get what we want? Let's talk about gender roles here a bit and the fallacy of those roles, with Lady Macbeth being so bold and Macbeth being the weaker of the two characters, it seems right now. Men are not supposed to show emotion, right? Men are not supposed to cry. Men are not supposed to show weakness and fear according to prescribed gender roles. Women are supposed to be nurturers, not planning a murder, not talking about dashing their baby's brains out. We know these gender roles are false, that men too have emotions, that women are not always nurturing and kind. Way to capture humanity, Shakespeare. That's what he's famous for. How does Macbeth deal with the prescribed gender roles? Does Macbeth go through with the murder because he's supposed to, because he's a man? Then what about Lady Macbeth? Why does she not behave as she is supposed to, nurturing, the weaker of the two, according to gender roles from 1603? Is Shakespeare simply ahead of his time? Is he the first feminist by showing a really strong female character? Or, and I think this is more the case, is Shakespeare including these reversed gender roles as an example of, yet another example of the unnatural in the play? The gender roles are so prescribed and so completely accepted that Shakespeare, by switching them, includes another example of extreme unnatural in the play, that the gender roles are switched. Which leads us to our topic of unnatural events. This is the third one. There's quite a few unnatural events in Act 1 and 2, and we've talked about them. The witches opening the play, just the witches on stage themselves, that's unnatural. There was hallucination, Macbeth hallucinating seeing that dagger, and then in that same dagger speech, witchcraft celebrating while half the world sleeps, offering sacrifices, those witches are. The murder of Duncan, murdering anyone is unnatural, murdering a king even more so. Macbeth isn't able to say amen after someone says, God bless you. Macbeth is not going to be able to sleep anymore. How natural is sleep, you guys? It's so natural. We do it every single day. And we crave, we want more sleep. Macbeth will sleep no more. Unnatural. We have wind blowing down chimneys. We have owls hooting all night long. We have the earth shaking after the king is murdered. A mouse kills an owl. The horses eat each other. Gender roles are reversed. So much unnatural in the play. We may not understand why it's all there so far, but it has got to do with the theme somehow. Otherwise, Shakespeare wouldn't keep putting it in here. We also have paradoxes throughout this whole play. Why are they showing up so often? We have the witches saying fair is foul, and Macbeth repeats that. I've never seen so fair and foul a day. We have the idea of Banquo being lesser but greater, happy yet happier. We have the instruments of darkness telling us truths. Those witches are telling truths. That's an opposite. Why would someone who works with the devil be telling truth? We have Lady Macbeth say, false face must hide what the false heart must show, right? Put a happy face on, even though your heart is black. We have the idea of making good of bad and friends of foes. What deeper meaning could all of these paradoxes imply? Just like the unnatural events, why are they all here? Think about what Shakespeare might be saying about evil, about humans. A theme often is an observation about life. Is Shakespeare getting at the two sides of humanity? How a person can be good and evil. There's a paradox at the same time. How unnatural it is for people to do evil, yet we continue to do it. The tragic paradox is a situation in which the hero's gifts are also the cause of his or her downfall. Macbeth is extraordinarily driven. This is a gift, but it also causes his downfall. This play is filled with suspense. Here's the fifth idea that we see. There is suspense throughout Act 1 and 2. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth's discussion at the end of Act 1 about whether they should kill the king, whether they're going to, they decide they will, builds suspense, leads us to expect the murder at the beginning of Act 2. Macbeth's dagger scene in Act 1, up to that sounding of the bell that is the call for the murder. Lady Macbeth's first two speeches build suspense. She raises the possibility of murder. She accuses Macbeth of being a coward, of being less than a man if he doesn't. The risks for Macbeth after he murders Duncan in scene 2 builds suspense. What about those guards? What are they going to do? What do they know? Malcolm and Donalbain, heirs to the throne, sons of the king, what are they going to do? Macbeth's own passion in the absence of his logic. Is he himself going to reveal his deed? Because he's not thinking clearly. The knocking at the end of scene 2, the porter, how long it takes him to open that door, who is there? Macbeth's heart and conscience, all of those things build suspense. The appearance of the porter, we find out the porter has been up partying all night long. Might he know something? That builds suspense. We have the dialogue from Malcolm at the end of Act 2. Malcolm says, let's not consort with them. To show an unfelt sorrow is an office which the false man does easy. Malcolm isn't trusting any of the people around him. What does Malcolm know? Malcolm's words foreshadow trouble for maybe Macbeth, a different character, and it certainly builds suspense. And then that uncertainty in the end with that old man who's being thought wise, prudent old man, building suspense at the end. Suspense is created with the reader wondering if Macbeth will get away with his deed and if he will reign sovereign hereafter. So we've got some big ideas going on. Passion and ambition, keep watching for those. Gender roles being reversed. We've got the unnatural events, we have the paradoxes, and we have suspense throughout this play. Lots of important things to keep our eye on as we finish reading.